Matt, the clock starts now. When a newcomer says, TypeScript sounds like a lot of extra steps, why should I bother? What do you say?
If you want your integrated development environment to be more powerful, you should use TypeScript. If you don't want it to be as powerful, you should use JavaScript. Perfectly fine if you don't want a powerful IDE, but now with AI agents, now with everyone rushing to make their IDE as powerful as possible, TypeScript is just like a no-brainer.
Makes sense. So you've taught TypeScript to thousands of developers, including many live workshops. What's a typical aha moment that you see it click for people learning TypeScript?
Honestly, it's the error flow. It's literally the feedback you get from TypeScript that goes, okay, there was a runtime error, and actually we trace the runtime error, we see, okay, it's erroring in the browser, and then we go all the way through and there's literally a red squiggly line under the line of code that caused the error in the browser. Why didn't I pick that up? And thousands of companies now are thinking exactly the same way, that TypeScript is just preventing runtime errors. That's what it's for, and that's what it's doing all over the world.
What's the most common misconception about TypeScript?
I think the most common misconception is that it's type safe, I'm not sure TypeScript is as type safe as people think it is. And really, it's not supposed to be putting just types in the language just for the fun of it. It's really supposed to just give you a better IDE experience. Without TypeScript, you wouldn't have things like autocomplete, rename symbol, go to definition inside your IDE. Your IDE would be much less powerful. So think of TypeScript as enabling your IDE to get more powerful instead of making the language more type safe.
Right on. What is one power-up TypeScript features that more people should learn sooner in their learning journey?
I think people should be aware of generics earlier in their journey. Now, if you're building like an application or you're migrating from JavaScript, then generics is actually going to give you a really healthy experience working on the utility functions. Because if your utility functions, the things that reused across your app, aren't up to shape, then the rest of your application is not going to be as type safe and you're going to have to do more work. So if you learn generics a little bit earlier in your development process, you'll have a much better time building applications.
That's a great tip. I'm going to brush up my generics knowledge. Do you personally use TypeScript on personal projects?
I use TypeScript every single possible place I can.
Do you write types first when you build something, as in sort of like a TDD or schema-driven development approach?
Great question. So I always pretty much write my types first, and often I end up creating what are called typed holes in my system, where you basically just create a function, you give it a parameter types and the return types, and then you implement it later. This means you can think at a high level first, think about what the shapes of the data are going to be, and then, especially with an AI that's just able to sort of spool through and add the implementation, it makes things a lot easier. So types first, runtime second is often how I approach it.
That's great. I love what you said about AI. It makes total sense to embrace that. Where is your personal limit on where it needs to be type safe? Type safe CSS?
Yeah, so type safe Tailwind CSS, for instance, type safe on every single class name, you basically don't need it, I think. As long as you have the VS Code extension where you have the nice autocomplete, which is kind of what types enable, the powerful IDE features, then I don't really think in terms of, this needs to be mega type safe. It needs to be correct, it needs to give me the right hints at the right times, give me the right warnings at the right times, but I don't want every single string in my application to be type safe. That seems a little bit overkill. For instance, people love making or experiment with type safe hex codes in their application, which is just insane. Type safe roots, type safe all sorts. Unless it's going to cause a real bug, if it's wrong, I like to just keep it relatively loose.
That's a great answer. All right, we got 45 seconds left. Have you ever regretted using TypeScript?
Never, ever once have I regretted using TypeScript.
Love that. And final question, if you could magically add one feature to TypeScript tomorrow, what would it be?
The TypeScript is rewriting in Go, so it's actually getting 10 times faster. So I would like that tomorrow, please. That would be really nice instead of, I think, towards the end of the year. Other than that, there are some nerdy things that I would add, I would love to see TypeScript get better at narrowing generic functions and making sure that the generic types match up to what's actually happening at runtime. And generally narrowing stuff in TypeScript as well could always be improved.
And we're out of time. Thank you so much, Matt. That was awesome.
Thanks, Simon. I'm going to get better at that.
Joe, the clock starts now. So there's Blade, there's Livewire. What's Inertia doing differently that makes it worth picking for a project?
I think what makes Inertia worth picking is that if you like writing JavaScript, if you like writing React or Vue, Inertia is perfect for you. If you like writing PHP, you want to go with Blade, you want to go with Livewire. So if what you want to do is write client-side code, Inertia makes it very, very simple to do that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
How do you explain Inertia to non-technical clients and stakeholders?
Yeah, so I generally describe it as a thin layer of glue between your Laravel backend and your client-side code. So it just does little invisible negotiations that you don't really have to worry about. You can kind of plug it in, and the two will talk to each other very seamlessly, and you'll kind of magically have this single-page application.
Cool. Is there a specific type of app where Inertia really shines?
There's not a specific app, but if the end game is a single page application and you want all the power that Laravel has to offer behind the scenes, that's where it really feels magical, because you really have like this super full featured back end, and then you still get to use that client-side framework that you love. So it just feels very cohesive when you're building like a solid web application.
Yeah, that's a dream for developers for sure.
Yeah.
So how do teams split front-end and back-end work when using Inertia? Do you see any patterns?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing about Inertia is that everybody gets to play to their strengths, right? So if you have strictly back-end or strictly front-end, or somebody who's leaning back-end or front-end, and they're not necessarily full stack, they get to just do what they love, and they don't really have to worry about the in-between stuff. So you just have to agree, like, this is the contract, right? So you say, like, these are the props I'm going to feed you, and then the client-side framework just acts as the view, V-I-E-W, not V-U-E, and it just works. So everybody gets to write the code that they love, which I think is sort of the beauty of something like Inertia.
That's amazing. What is something new Inertia users get wrong quite often or totally overlook?
Okay, so last year we launched history encryption, which I think is a really neat feature that probably is heavily underutilized. I don't think a lot of Inertia users are probably using it, but if you aren't using it, you should look at history encryption. It's a very cool way to secure your app, and something that was asked for a long time, so I hope people start using it.
That's great. I must look into this. What's a feature of Inertia that just sparks joy every time you use it for you?
I love deferred props. I don't know what it is. It makes me very happy. Deferred props, you just say, this prop is deferred, you get the snappy page load, and it automatically loads those props into the page asynchronously. I don't know anybody who's doing it like better or easier than that. It makes me happy every time.
So cool. So do you use this when you want to render the page instantly and then load something in the background, and when it's ready, it shows up?
Right. So if you have some like heavy data that needs to be loaded, you don't need to wait for the initial page load for that. It'll automatically load it after the page has already done the initial load, if you just mark it as a deferred prop.
Awesome.
Yep.
Do you ever see Inertia moving towards server components? I don't know if you're familiar with React and how now there's client and server components, and React and Inertia battles with that space.
You're talking about like writing server-side code in a JavaScript component? Is that basically kind of what you're saying, or is it?
Yeah, what I mean is like React used to be just a client-side library, and now it's moved towards doing a lot of stuff for server code. And so that's the area where Inertia operates. So there's overlap here. So
I don't think so. I think that's probably not in the future for Inertia. I think we're going to let the back end, the Laravel, play to its strengths, and let the client side play to its strengths. And I think we're going to keep those separate but cohesive.
I think that makes sense. The more I play with Inertia, the more I think I don't need the client side, the server side of React.
It's the whole selling point. It's amazing.
It really is. All right, and my last question: what's one feature or idea that you're itching to add or improve in Inertia or its ecosystem?
So not necessarily Inertia specific, but it's going to play very nicely with Inertia. I really want the two sides to talk to each other even more cohesively. So I want the client side to know as much as possible about what's going on the back end, whether it's what type of props it can expect as defined by the back end, what types of models we have, what types of enums. Like I want all of that stuff to be things that the client side knows about via TypeScript or JavaScript. And I think that's something that I'm excited about. That's something I'm excited to put out there. And it's something we're working on right now as a little project.
Sounds great. All right, Joe, that's all the time we got. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Michael, the clock starts now. When the doors finally open on day one of Laracon AU, what's going through your head?
Once the doors are open, I got no control anymore. So I just try not to think too much about it and have fun with the whole thing.
Nice. As an organizer, what's your favorite thing to overhear an attendee say?
It's just nice to have positive feedback, and sometimes it's just like on obscure things, nothing specific and nothing bad, but it's nice to hear that all of the planning has paid off, and that people are happy to be there, and they're excited by the talks, and they're excited by the community and the atmosphere and all of it. So it's just nice to hear that people are happy.
Yep. Most underrated job of the whole conference crew?
I think just getting the speakers on stage, especially first timers. People don't think, I think people don't understand just how much goes into giving a talk, but to be giving your first talk, especially at a Laracon, there's like a preconceived notion about the quality of what that needs to be. Like just to get them on the stage. And I think watching the nerves as they step on, but then watching the relief and the exhilaration and the happiness when it's all finished, I think that's probably right up there.
Yep, awesome. What is something that never goes to plan no matter how much you prepare for it?
Check-in time. No matter how much we plan, like, do we bag all of the swag? Do we do a multi-step process? Do we, allocate the badges by last name? Like, all of that. Doesn't matter how much we change it up and how much we think we've definitely got it right. There's something always goes slightly wrong. Nothing bad, but I think check-in's the toughest thing for us to get right.
Cool. Is there any part of the event that you always miss because you're too busy running around?
The talks. I never see the talks themselves. Like, I know all about the talks, I know about the speakers, I know what's going to be presented, but then actually seeing them, I think I miss maybe 90% of them, because I'm like going to check the next speaker, going to check that like catering's under control, all of this stuff that you just like running around the whole time. I'm still only halfway through the talks from last year's Laracon AU.
Right. So in that regard, what's one thing every speaker can do to make your life as an organizer easier?
I don't know. It's hard because I feel like my job as an organizer is to make their jobs easier.
Yes.
Because you've got to travel, you've got to, be there, you've got to overcome nerves, all of this you've got to put the talk together. Like, I just want you to turn up and give your talk, and I try and arrange as much as possible. Like, I do accommodation, we do travel, all of that stuff. We'll send a Uber to the airport for you. I think it's my job as an organizer to make your job as a speaker easy. I don't think it goes the other way. But being proactive in communicating, I think, is always, communication is always the top of any of this stuff.
If someone in another part of the world wanted to start a Laracon style event, what's one piece of advice you'd give them?
That is a tricky one. Do it. Start small though. Don't go from no experience to Laracon. Try and run a meetup first. There's lots of that stuff going on. I know that the Laravel, the company, is trying to be more proactive and more involved in that side of things. So definitely reach out to them. But yeah, start a meetup first and try and go from there. Do not Do not do what I did and go straight to Laracon.
Do not go all out.
That's a lot.
What is one tiny detail you obsess over that most attendees probably never notice?
2 years ago, I would have said like my welcome talk, just doing the setting the pace for the conference. And there was like a bit in there that I don't want to go into that like I was very stoked by and no one noticed. So that's probably one thing. We put a ton of effort into the branding, and I say I mean Nucleus, the team behind it.
Yep.
The detail they go to, the depths and the connectivity in all of that stuff is crazy. So people wouldn't notice all of it, but there's a lot of detail in it.
I no doubt there is. Last question for you. What is the first thing you do once Laracon is officially over and everyone has left the venue?
Sit. I just sit. And I try and not think about it too much. Because it is a very deflating thing. It's like, it's done. People are happy. It's all over. Just sit.
Fair enough. That's all the time we got. Thank you so much, Michael.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.
You nailed it, man.
Answers to everything.
Today, we've got Matt Stauffer, founder at Titan. Matt is also the author of Laravel Up and Running and a prominent voice in the Laravel community. I've got some business questions for Matt, so without further ado, Matt, the clock starts now. So, how has choosing Laravel shaped the way you hire, train, and run projects at Titan?
Yeah, because Laravel is such a full stack framework, we have the opportunity to bring on one person that can do an entire feature the whole way through, or two people that can work on it together. We don't have to build these giant teams where you've got 20 people on back end and 20 people on front end just to get anything done. And the ability to trust one person to be able to do something the whole way through doesn't mean that they always will, but it means that you can know that they're going to understand something the whole way through. So even when pairing is happening, we don't have a lot of those shortcomings that come from back-end people trying to speak front-end language or vice versa. So I think like the shapes of our individual people impact the shapes of our teams, which impact the shapes of the engagements that we're doing, and all of those things kind of allow us to be much more nimble. We can still build a big team, but a team doesn't have to be big in order to work with Laravel.
Makes a lot of sense. I've read that Titan doesn't do detailed estimates. So how do you scope projects and manage expectations without traditional budgeting?
Yeah, so clients ask about budgets because they need to know how long is it going to take and what is it going to cost. And nobody really knows that, so everybody's guessing. And they're going to do a whole bunch of upfront research that may or may not be reflected in the reality when the project actually happens. But most likely what happens is either they at the end are stressing their developers, saying going faster, because the sales guy promised something for you, and then they're also potentially eating some costs, or the client thinks everything's going to fit in one budget and then it doesn't in the end. It doesn't serve anybody. So what we do is we say similar projects have cost similar amounts in the past, and we give you that as a ballpark. But when you're talking about as a ballpark, we're all understanding that this is just a guess, and we're going to have to adapt, and we can adapt by cutting scope as we go, or saying, there's an 80% cost version of this that we can do for you that's going to it's one of those 80% of the value and 20% of the time. So we're constantly working to match their expectations, but they also know that if at some point they want more than we originally talked about, they're going to have to potentially go a little bit longer. So we start with the expectation that nobody ever knows, and we're honest about that, and it allows us to enter into a much more realistic relationship than trying to pretend on day one we actually know what's going to cost.
This was a fantastic answer.
This thrilling episode of Running Clock is proudly brought to you by Laracasts. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's the rootinest, tootinest Laravel screencast this side of the information highway. And back to the show.
Question from Jeffrey Way. You're the author of Laravel Up and Running from O'Reilly. Considering the substantial time investment, was it worth the effort? Did it pay off?
Financially, absolutely not. I made less than minimum wage working on that book, especially across multiple editions. But in terms of its impact on what I wanted to happen in the community, absolutely. I'm very, very happy with what it's done for other people. And what it's done for me, I think, is also valuable because I have a degree in English, right? I don't have a computer science degree. I don't have any credentials that would really convince somebody that I'm a programmer. But I have this book, and it's the O'Reilly Animal book saying, hey, I'm the guy that did Laravel. And to me, that helps me in terms of my reputation, but also helps Titan, because Titan can say, hey, we literally wrote the book, and it's actually true. We did literally write the book, and that's a really great kind of marketing tool showing, hey, we really know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, you get exposure and reputation through that.
Got it.
Next question.
Yep.
What is one thing most solo developers do not realize about running an agency?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say one, but I'm going to sneak in a second one. The number one thing about it is that people who imagine what running an agency specifically like is, they think about it about building a team and writing code and being creative. And what they don't think about is the fact that it's actually running an agency. That's the biggest thing. And that's true for anybody who wants to start a business. People want to start a business, and so they can do the thing they like doing with control. But what happens is you start a business, and now your job is running the business, and you're paying other people to do the thing you like doing, right? So that's like the one piece. And the second piece is people starting an agency, or think about starting an agency, don't often think about how much of your job has to do with business development. When you're a freelancer, you just have to come up with your payroll. Very quickly after starting an agency, you have to come up with 6 figures of money every 2 weeks, and that's just a totally different world.
That is very different indeed. Last question. Is there a kind of project where you would say, nope, not using Laravel here, pick something else?
If there's an off-the-shelf tool that already does everything that they want, they don't need to customize it, and they're already comfortable with it or can get comfortable with it quickly. So that might be WordPress or maybe a CRM or something like that. There are great needs for Laravel-based CMSs for a large number of clients, but sometimes WordPress does everything they need and their marketing team already likes WordPress, or they want a CRM and it's already off the shelf. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel.
That is a very pragmatic answer. And Matt, we're all out of time. Thank you so much. You did great.
Thank you. Having the timer is so helpful because when I did this with Michael, I could just talk forever, right? Like each of these questions, I could have gone for 5 minutes. So I'm like, thank you. That was very helpful.
I did have Michael on the show, and he said, dude, when you have Matt Stauffer, make sure the timer is right there.
Make sure you have the timer.
All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Jess, the clock starts now. What is it like to get the band back together and lead a team of folks that you've worked with at various places through the years?
It's a dream come true, to be honest. So a lot of us used to work together at another company, and we all just really kind of clicked. We had tons of fun. It was a really collaborative way of working. And then we all started to go our separate ways at some point. So once we kind of had room in the Nightwatch team for more people, they were the first people I thought of. We've also brought on other people as well, and they've fit right in. So yeah, it's the best.
That sounds awesome for sure. Question, does Nightwatch run itself on Nightwatch?
Yes, so we do use Nightwatch to monitor Nightwatch. So our staging environment monitors our production environment, and production monitors staging. It does get a little bit confusing sometimes when you're trying to figure out like which Nightwatch I need to log into to debug which Nightwatch.
Yeah.
But we use it every day, and we found it super valuable. And a lot of the features we have built and are building come from our own experiences and the things that we want to see to make Nightwatch even better.
That's great. Great dog fooding.
Yeah.
What is something that Nightwatch has surfaced in a production app where everyone went, whoa, there is no chance we would have figured that out otherwise?
There's been quite a few things, over the time we've been using it. We installed it on Forge very, very early on to kind of, help dog food it. And on Forge, we found a few things. There was a brute force login attack that we saw that we probably wouldn't have known about otherwise. So like a huge spike of failed login attempts. We saw people using the API that were like hitting it multiple times per second, like consistently over the whole month. All sorts of stuff like that. We had a performance issue the other day that there was an issue with the database that kind of brought the entire app's performance down. So we saw our performance graphs like all kind of go up. And then as soon as we fixed the problem, we kind of like had an idea of what it was. And as soon as we fixed it, we saw the graphs come back down to the normal level beforehand. So being able to see that, all of that information, the historical information, and see the changes take effect immediately has been super, super valuable.
Yeah, it's amazing.
This thrilling episode of Running Clock is proudly brought to you by Laracasts. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's the rootinest, tootinest Laravel screencast this side of the information highway. And back to the show.
What was the MVP version of Nightwatch? The absolute smallest slice that you shipped and knew that would provide value?
We started with Laravel Pulse, which was just this zoomed out single page dashboard. And so Nightwatch was like, what can we do if we weren't restricted by what tools we were using under the hood? And so I guess the main MVP, or the main thing that we wanted to be able to do, was still have that zoomed out dashboard, but be able to click in on any of those things on that dashboard and keep zooming in and zooming in further until we were looking at an individual request. So no longer aggregated data, but an individual request, and being able to see everything that happened inside that request. So every query, where it sat, so that kind of timeline view. So yeah, going from all the way zoomed out to all the way zoomed in is the MVP, and still to me the main kind of thing I use in Nightwatch.
Yeah. It kind of feels like Google Maps, where you can just keep zooming in and get more details. I think it's amazing. So how, on the counterpart, did you decide what not to include in the initial launch, even if you thought, that's really important?
This was a tough one. We had a lot of features, even some that we demoed, that just weren't quite ready for the time of launch, and we didn't want to keep delaying launch. So there's things like deployment tracking that we still need to bring in and are working towards. There was our server monitoring feature that we had in Pulse, which felt really important, but as we kind of thought about it more and more, it was a lot of work for something that's not Nightwatch's core feature. And then there was even like our cache monitoring solution. We kind of had something that worked okay in Pulse, but we were never fully happy with it. And so we still needed to put more thought into it to figure how it would make the most sense in Nightwatch, and kind of reevaluate a lot of those Pulse features, not just try and re-implement them, but actually kind of take them back to scratch and figure out how they made the most sense.
Right. And last question, what are you most excited about in the next phase of Nightwatch, being the team or the product?
Honestly, there's so much. We have this like long wish list of features that we're really excited to build. We know we have to focus on building these strong foundations where we can capture this data and provide these valuable insights, but there's so much more we can do with that data to show people more about their applications. There's other data points we want to capture, entire other features. There's just so much. So at the moment, I feel like we really need to scratch the surface. Nightwatch will continue to evolve and have a lot of really big and exciting features that I'll be excited to share when they're ready.
Hey, that is exciting. Well, that's all the time we got. Thank you, Jess. You've done amazing.
Thanks, Simon. How was that?
Yeah, that was great. I forgot to start the timer as you... At least I've hit record. There's always one thing that I'm like, damn, that button I did not press. Today's guest needs no introduction. The man just does a lot of things. And so I just have a lot of questions. Aaron, the clock starts now. The Laravel new command sets up SQLite by default. I like it. Can I or should I use it for production too?
You can. Should you? That is an it depends question. But you absolutely can. There are a few settings you need to tweak, and if you're going to run your queues and your cache with SQLite, I would recommend setting up 3 databases: one for your real data, one for queues, one for cache.
Nice. Good tip. You're known to learn by printing and reading from A to Z. What's the latest thing you've used your Stabilo boss on?
That's a great one. Latest thing I've used it on is books on Redis and books on ClickHouse. So that's all I can say on that topic for now.
Zip.
Yep.
What part of your work takes the longest but nobody ever notices?
Oh, clearly, absolutely, 100% the research, the studying, the practicing, the playing. There's just so much work that goes into producing something that is valuable as final content.
So that includes the printing and stabilo bossing.
The printing, the highlighting, the existential dread, all of it.
Nice. You try a lot of experimental stuff. How do you know when to pivot versus when to push through?
I wish I had a better answer. I think as long as I am interested, I will keep going. That is a double-edged sword because I think at some points I've given up too early when I'm no longer interested because I've done the fun part, the hard part, and now I just got to do the schlep to get it out the door. But as long as I think it's interesting, I don't really care how crazy other people think it is.
What is something that totally did not land for you, but you're still glad that you tried?
Oh, that one's right on topic. Fusion. I wrote a JavaScript PHP combo thing and thought it was awesome and powered through the schlep, and then everybody freaking hated it. Everybody. People in the community, people outside the community, friends. It just went very poorly.
But you're still glad you tried because you learned things.
Oh, of course, yeah. I learned a ton. It was interesting. It was definitely worth it, but I'm not going to do it again.
Fair enough. Deep question. You've lived through a tech layoff. What helped you stay grounded in the aftermath?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that was brutal. Family, my wife. For sure, kids, and close friends, including my former business partner Steve. We both got laid off at the same time, and it was nice to have a buddy.
Yeah.
This thrilling episode of Running Clock is proudly brought to you by Laracasts. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's the rootinest, tootinest Laravel screencast this side of the information highway. And back to the show.
What's the biggest mistake one can do when trying to build an audience online?
Set out to try to build an audience online. I mean, I think, really it's try to be somebody that you're not and try to do all the right things. I think building an audience online should primarily stem from who you are as an individual and things that you care about, and not chase after, what James Clear has or something like that.
Facts. I like it. What's your dream unserious course? If nobody was watching, what course would you do?
Oh, easy. Lessons on comedy from the show Seinfeld. I think it would be great to teach a course about small talk and everyday humor just from Seinfeld clips.
I like it. It's a very useful skill too.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
If everything you've built disappeared overnight, let's hope not. Your audience, your course platform, everything, where would you start again?
I would probably start on YouTube. I think if everything disappeared, I would potentially abandon the current Twitter. I don't know. But I think YouTube is still very underrated for getting started.
Yep. It's one of the biggest search engines on the planet for sure.
Sure is.
And last question, Aaron. In 10 years, what do you hope people remember you for?
I hope that people remember me for being congruent in the things that I say and the things that I do. I hope that at some path along the way, I've inspired some people to do something, learn something, try hard at something. But I think hopefully people in 10 years will say, wow, he really did the things that he told everyone else to do.
That's great. And I think you're doing a good job at that. That's all the time we've got, Aaron. Thank you so much. You've done amazing.
I tried to talk fast. Thanks, Simon. Awesome. That was easy. Easy peasy. These are fun. I like these.
Today, I'm joined by Christoph Rumpel, longtime Laravel contributor, educator, and now one of the faces of Laravel on the core team. Christoph, the clock starts now. Alrighty, you create a lot of video content. What does your pre-recording routine looks like?
Yeah, so luckily it's actually not that much that I have to do. So over the last years, I tried to make my setup as efficient as possible. So basically I have to press one button to get my desk up and then a second button on my Stream Deck to get all the lights up here, to get all the shades down. And then basically I'm ready to press record and yeah, good to go.
That's amazing. I press a whole lot more buttons than that. How has your approach to teaching and screencasting evolved since joining Laravel?
Oh, good one. So I think a few things have changed, of course, like the setup here. I changed it. I try to be as professional as I can be since I'm representing Laravel now in a way. So I really don't want to mess this up with Taylor. So that's something where I try to get my level here to the next level or my setup to the next level. But in terms of teaching and presenting and my screencast, I'd say not really much has changed. I still try to be as eye to eye with the people that I try to present to. I try to imagine there's one person here that I'm trying to present this new feature or what I do in the video, and I try to take them on a little journey from, hey, here's where you are, here is where we have something new, here's an issue, here we can do this, and now this gets you from A to B. And hopefully people, when they see my video at the end, they know not just what the feature is about, but also how they can use it.
Very nice. Thank you. How do you keep up with all the new features in Laravel each week? Do you get any cool automation in your What's New video workflow?
Oh, yeah, I do. So, yeah, there's a lot going on, especially now that the team has grown so much. Yeah. And yeah, Taylor and everyone is cooking. And yeah, we have a lot of new things on the framework. And I'm responsible for the What's New video almost every week. So yeah, there's a lot going on. And I have this a command line interface tool, which helps me where I just pick a specific release. It shows me all the features. I just pick the ones where I think they're most interesting for this video. And then it creates me this whole Notion page with all with a database, with all the features, with all the links, pull request links, with all the contributors and their Twitter tags and so on, so that it makes me as simple as possible to start recording. And after the video is done, I can also use this tool to create a timeline, video description, some social media posts and so on. So yeah, I try to work this to get this even better because this is something that I need every week. And yeah, I also really love working on these automations too.
That's super cool. You're very organized.
I try.
This thrilling episode of Running Clock is proudly brought to you by Laracasts. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's the rootinest tootinest Laravel screencast this side of the information highway. And back to the show.
You've been part of the Laravel community for a good 10 years. What's something that stayed true since the early days?
Oh, yeah. I think it's now my 12th or 13th year in the Laravel community. And I think there's a lot which is still the same. So right from the beginning, people were super friendly back in 2012 or something. And yeah, I think that's still the case. People just like to show how things are done, try to help you. Everyone is very positive about everything. We're very welcoming. Come here, let me show you what we do here. Maybe you like it, maybe not. But yeah, I think that's one of Taylor's biggest success, the community. And yeah, we have the framework, we have everything, but the community, people just come here, have a good time. They work, but they also have fun. And I think that's just the best combination. So yeah, thank you, Taylor, again for this.
Well, I'm much newer to the community, but I completely agree with what you said. So it's true still now for sure. What is one piece of gear in your studio setup that you wish you had way earlier in your journey?
Oh, I mean, there's so much, but I think I got here in front of me a little prompter. which is really nice because I can directly look into the camera, but I still have our interface here where I can see you and me, and I don't have to look somewhere else to check what's going on. So yeah, this would have been really nice some years ago already, but it just came out, I think, last year. So I think this wouldn't have been possible. But yeah, I really love this piece of technology and it helps me a lot.
I'm looking into the same thing and I agree, it's game changer. Last question for you. What's one piece of advice you would give to your 10 years younger former self?
I think I would say you're good enough. It's okay to learn from others. It's okay to be inspired by others, but don't ever try to compare yourself to others because you can only fail with this one and it will make you unhappy. So yeah, try to stick true to yourself, to your path, to your journey. Listen to your heart, and here again, you're good enough the way you are. But still keep working, get outside your comfort zone. You still have to crush it, but overall, you're good enough.
What an amazing way to wrap it up. That's all the time we got. Thank you so much, Christoph. You've done amazing.
Thank you so much, Simon.
Yeah, you did great.
Whew.
Yeah. Basketball championship.
Congrats. Oh my God, so it must be every day.
Pretty much every day. Yeah. This is my contribution to the community.
It's your open source.
Exactly. Today, I've got Ashley Hindle, the creator of Laravel Boost. This should be a lot of fun. Ashley, the clock starts now. What's the biggest misconception developers have when they first try AI in their workflow?
Probably the biggest misconception is thinking that AI is skillless and you just type in the box and get what you want. But that's not true. This is a skill that you develop that we need to embrace and practice and learn, just like we did Git and new frameworks and TDD. I think that's the correct answer.
That makes sense. Do you think AI will ever replace code reviews, or is this something sacred?
Yes and yes, but not all code reviews. So code reviews are sacred and they're critically important, but AI will still replace many code reviews at some point. And OpenAI has just announced that their Codex tool is reviewing the vast majority of their PRs as their first pass. And so human intuition and taste will always be better here than AI, but often AI is good enough. So I think it will, but code reviews are still critically important and sacred, and we shouldn't let it take over so easily.
What's a task that you still prefer doing without AI?
Probably new project setup. So I've started lots of different projects, and I don't trust AI to set up packages and Composer and CI or test suites or libraries. So I like to manually make sure the foundation is what I want and allow AI to work from there. I have only bad experiences letting AI do that initial setup.
Good tip. What's one thing that you have learned about Laravel by using Boost?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing recently is how to use the HTTP client effectively. Mm-hmm. And then randomly I'll learn about a new method in the collection or string or array helpers class that I didn't know was there because there's like 100 of them that do things you don't know that you need. So that's always cool. And it's like, did you know this exists? And I didn't. And so, yeah, probably those.
Nice.
This thrilling episode of Running Clock is proudly brought to you by Laracasts. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's the rootinest, tootinest Laravel screencast this side of the information highway. And back to the show.
All right, we're halfway through the time. What is an underrated way AI makes you faster?
For me personally, probably decision making. I sometimes get into decision paralysis of like, there are so many ways to do things. What the hell do I do? And so it's nice for AI to present all the options to me, and then I can just say, okay, let's do option 3 and move on pretty quickly. And so, and because I know AI can do refactoring, if it turns out I don't like that, and I don't have to go through the pain of refactoring, is much easier to just decide and move forward. So probably that.
Nice. What is one Laravel specific task AI still struggles with?
In my experience, testing or Laravel specific testing patterns like feature versus unit, refresh database, qfake, carbon freeze. It just seems to ignore all of the niceties we have when I try to build tests. But maybe that's a skill problem. Maybe I just need to be better.
What is your personal stance on vibe coding?
Vibe, don't do it. Proper vibe coding, not looking at the code, just pushing it. 99.5% of the time, it's wrong. For some of my side hacky projects, I will do it if it's never going to go anywhere and I'm only going to use it 2 or 3 times. But yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it. We have 45 seconds left. What is your preferred large language model, if any?
Claude Sonnet 4 right now for the vast majority of things, and GPT-5 when I'm working on the front end.
Ooh, oh, nice tip. What does the future of Laravel Boost look like?
Ooh, that's a tough one. More guidelines, broader ecosystem support, more powerful MCP tools, better documentation search. There's more that I want to do, but I can't share those things just yet.
And that's all the time we got. Thank you so much. You have done amazing.
Thank you. Even if I'm talking, you should just stop it at 5 minutes. Like if I'm in the middle of an answer, it'd be great.
Sorry,
just
cut off.
black screen.
Stop.
Yeah.
Today, I am really excited to have Caleb Porzio, the creator of Livewire, Alpine.js, Sushi, to name a few. This should be a good one. Caleb, the clock starts now. If Livewire didn't exist today, what development stack would you be using to build apps?
Oh, I mean, probably, I don't know, like React or something is the default, but I'd like to think that I would still be doing Vanilla Blade and abusing like all of the web to do the things I want to do. I don't know.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Emoji prefix or .livewire.php extension in your personal projects?
Well, .livewire.php, I don't think that made it on stage because I don't think I'm doing that one for a handful of reasons, but it's emoji all day. Yeah. Right? Come on. You want to be right or do you want to be cool?
Another thing you said at your Laracon US talk, and I quote, "I don't hate multiple files. I love collocation. This is Caleb's single responsibility principle." What other aspects of your life do you apply this principle to?
I just think mentally in my actual life, I'm really scattered, like ADHD to stuff everywhere, you know, but it does cause me pain. And so in my mental life and anything, it's like, I have to know where to look and I can only look at that one thing. I'm like really tunnel vision and nearsighted. So when things are in different places and then I have to return them, it causes me a ton of pain. And so I'm always just like, whatever this concept is, can we put it in one place and like put it in a bunker? You know, then I can immerse myself when I need to. And when I don't, I can treat it as a black box mentally. Yeah.
A key aspect of open source is fostering a great community. Talk to me about your desire to hang out in real life with the Wire Live event in Buffalo.
Yeah. So in my head, I have this project that I love and am passionate about, and a lot of people from all over the world are passionate about it. And I'm in this community talking to friends like you. And it's this big, beautiful society. And then when you unplug, or if you look at me from the outside, I'm just a guy in an attic typing all the time. And there's just this disconnect. And so this, in one way, this is like connecting that. Like people are going to enter my actual life. I really believe, like way more than I've ever believed, that conferences are like the most important thing for a community, for like a tech ecosystem. And I've just haven't even tapped into that with Livewire. So I'm stoked to start it
and create a little beating heart that people can kind of gather around and they can feel belonging and they can launch something and have a stage and have a community. Yeah, so I'm excited.
I love that.
This thrilling episode of Running Clock is proudly brought to you by Laracasts. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's the rootinest, tootinest Laravel screencast this side of the information highway. And back to the show.
How much time do you spend deconstructing existing packages and libraries to learn how they work?
Almost none. Yeah, I don't know. Very occasionally I'll be like, oh, how did this thing, solve some weird scroll thing in Safari 16? But I used to do a lot of source diving. I source dive Laravel constantly, but no, I mostly like work off the DOM and just like ChatGPT things I need and whatever, Yeah.
All right, we got 1 minute 45 left. You recently talked on your podcast about the concept of precedent, and I really like what you said. Can you tell the audience what you mean by that?
Yeah, this one I've been thinking about a ton. It's like we have to make decisions a lot about like a change. So there's a new feature or something or a problem to solve. And so the first thing I always do is like, how do we not add anything so that it's invisible to the user? Can we solve this without adding anything? But when we have to add something, there's, it's a blank canvas, unlimited possibilities. Creativity benefits from constraints. And precedent is a great constraint. It's like, how do we just use something that you are already familiar with? Like, what's a term from something you already use or in our own package that we can go, oh, this new thing, you just use this word or you use this method or this technique, and people have something to map it to. And then as a creator, you're not inventing something new that you're beholden to that you regret a year later because you made it on a whim. It's like, no, if I can take other people's decisions that we all agree is the right thing, we have less in our minds and we can just focus. Yep.
Ah, excellent. We're all gonna be out of jobs anyway. Let's have fun on our way out. How long until AI takes all our dev jobs away?
I don't know, not now. With AI for me, it's like AI is great when I am the one doing the thinking and I understand it all. As soon as you let go of understanding and do the vibe thing is when, unless it's like a prototype or something that doesn't need to be maintained ever, you end up regretting it. And so far, I have not seen it take away the need for me to use my brain. So I'm still employed, we're still employed, but I don't know. They're so good, I don't know. So I said it, but I actually don't believe it.
Look, looks like we're out of time. I would love to speak longer, but we are 5 minutes done. Thank you so much, Caleb. You've done amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Simon. 5 minutes. I mean, that's the hardest thing in the world for me is to like shut up, You gotta.
Today, I've got a very special guest, Jeffrey Way, the founder of Laracasts. I know we all have questions for him, so let's get right into it. Jeffrey, the clock starts now. So, when you started Laracasts, what was your most crazy, optimistic expectations for it?
Oh, I wasn't ambitious at all. If I could simply reproduce the income that I had at my former job, that would have been incredible success. So yeah, I didn't hope for anything more than that.
Nice. And if Laracast hadn't worked out, what was the plan B?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, actually. Right around that time, I lived in the U.S. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, and my wife and I were very much at a crossroads. We had to decide whether to finish building Laracast and launch it as a product, or at the very same time, I had a job offer from a company called Treehouse. You may know teamtreehouse.com. Yep. And that would have required that we move to Orlando, Florida. And we had to decide, do we go out on our own, or do we choose the safe route? And clearly and thankfully, I took a risk on Laracast and it paid off. And then amazingly, we still ended up moving to Orlando, Florida, just as a coincidence.
After all these years creating screencasts, what's the one thing you still struggle with?
I think sometimes I have a tendency to be a little bit verbose. And that's why I have an internal rule where I'm always reminding myself, keep it going. Keep it going. I imagine the viewer saying, come on, come on, come on. Move it along, move it along. because sometimes I feel like I need to over-explain when I don't. And maybe that's a good thing. It's especially helpful to newcomers, but to people who have been in this industry for a long time, they don't need the explanation. You can move it along.
Yep. All right, we're 2 minutes in. Next question. Do you ever rewatch your early episodes? And if so, what makes you cringe the most?
They're horrible. I don't make a habit of going back and watching them, but if they ever just pop up, when I'm testing the site, well, two things. One of them, it's just a product of the times. Like, we didn't have access to some of the education that we do now in terms of how to make videos. Now it's like you go on YouTube and there are endless resources for how to set up a camera, how to configure it, how to set up 3-point lighting, as you know. Back in 2013, it just wasn't available. If you uploaded a programming screencast to YouTube, I swear it was at 320p and you couldn't read it. So you had to make the text or the font size like 24 point in order for the viewer to see it. Otherwise, it would be too blurry. But other than that, I go back and it's just, there's a lack of attention to detail. I feel like I didn't respect the format enough. And I guess that's just, I don't know, to look back and be disgusted by your former self is probably a good thing, right?
This thrilling episode of Running Clock is proudly brought to you by Laracasts. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's the rootinest, tootinest Laravel screencast this side of the information highway. And back to the show.
It might be related. What's the hardest part of teaching in 2025 compared to 2014?
I don't think that much has changed. Yeah, the main thing, like I was just saying, is the competition. There are so many people doing the same thing now. And I swear back in 2014, believe it or not, like programming education, it was kind of novel. It was kind of quaint. The idea of like video-based education. Not everyone was doing it. So you could get away with a sloppy video. Whereas now, as you know, every single person seemingly has a course. So we've all had to up our game big time.
The bar has been raised, yep.
Yeah.
You're a great teacher, but who taught you the most about teaching?
Nobody specifically. I was trying to think if I have my own, like, Mr. Feeney for the 4 people who know that reference. And I don't really. I think the thing that has truly helped me is to remember about the things that confused me the most. In the past, when I was learning something, I found myself getting mad once I figured it out because I would think, well, why didn't you just tell me this? And if you had just said this, this, and that, I would have understood, but you didn't. And so, yeah, whenever I make videos now, I try to remind myself, what do you wish somebody had taught you about this particular subject?
Yeah. All right, 20 seconds left. I'm going to rapid fire you. Early bird or night owl?
Oh, I have this one for you. Early bird.
One monitor or multiple screen battle station?
Just one monitor.
And last one weird thing on your desk right now.
Absolutely nothing, actually. I've decided to have a clean desk. I have a mat, a keyboard, a mouse. That's it. Nothing else.
All right, Jeffrey, that's all the time we got. Thank you so much. You've done great.
Thank you, Simon. I appreciate it. All right, that was fun. That's stressful, actually.
I know. Well, I'm about to know.
Right. My guest today is Simon Vrashliotis, a prominent developer, designer, surfer, and Laracasts instructor. Simon, are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
All right, the clock starts now. Simon, if I gave you a Figma file for a new website build, what is step 1 for you?
Assuming I'm going to build it with Tailwind, which I probably will, I will try to identify the design tokens, so the colors, the spacing scale that are off the main Tailwind schema.
or theme, and then I will codify this so that I have a CSS framework that feels right, bespoke for this project that I'm building. That's usually my step one.
That sounds right to me too. All right, number 2. If you were asked to upgrade your video production to the next level, what is the first thing you would do or purchase?
I've been iterating on my setup for a good 10 years, and there's still many things I'd love to do. I'd say I've reached the point of diminished returns in lighting, microphone, everything. So probably my next step would be an additional camera that is not tethered to my space here, so I can place it in different areas and do dynamic intros and B-rolls and stuff like this. So second angle to make it a bit more interesting.
Okay, diminishing returns. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, you are prominent in the Tailwind community. Was your first interaction with it positive or negative?
It was very positive, but because I had made the whole discovery of utility-first CSS through another library called Tachyons a bit earlier, my first encounter with Tachyons was not so great at first, but I'm glad I pushed through.
Absolutely. All right, name me one maybe less common development tool that is essential to your workflow.
I'm sort of minimalist guy, but that might sound silly, but the screenshots tool on Mac. I use it hundreds of times every day to measure distances, to check alignment between elements, to take screenshots, to paste into mood boards, or even take a data table, screenshot it, paste it in ChatGPT to get the code, like the text version of the picture. I use screenshots all the time.
I agree with you. I use it all the time too, for little measurements.
This thrilling episode of Running Clock is proudly brought to you by Laracasts. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's the rootinest, tootinest Laravel screencast this side of the information highway. And back to the show.
Tell me one, if you will, tell me one career-related insecurity that you have.
I career transitioned into programming at in my late 20s, almost 30. No computer science degree whatsoever, and so I've always thought that I don't know enough. And 15 plus years into the industry, I still have this feeling in my head. I'm competing against young people going straight into tech, and I always will be playing catch up, and I cannot shake this feeling off.
Yes, I think we can all relate to that. So on that note, what is one tool that you want to learn but you haven't done so yet?
There are many, many, many. I've watched your podcast about programming anxiety, that you want to know everything. This is my bread and butter. But I would say probably Solid.js, which is a JavaScript framework that takes the good parts of React but makes it much simpler, and it compiles to vanilla JavaScript. So Solid.js is one of these things that I keep hearing good stuff. It's been out for 3 years now, I think, but I haven't had a chance to check it. So that's probably the one.
Interesting. All right. In 10 seconds, Simon, can you give us a small, tiny teaser of your next Laracast course?
The next course is called Motion for the Web. We look at everything that moves and animates on the web. CSS transitions, keyframe animations, SVG animations, JavaScript animations. So if you like movement, you will like this course.
Okay, Simon, lightning round. Are you ready? Here we go.
Let's go.
You can only pick one, surfing or basketball.
Oh, basketball.
Vue or React.
React.
TypeScript or JavaScript.
TypeScript, although it didn't start like this at all.
Same. Early riser or night owl.
Early riser, absolutely.
When recording a screencast, you prefer natural light or blackout curtains.
At heart, natural light, but practically controlled lighting.
Okay. Dark mode or light mode.
Light mode at heart again.
All right, last one. What is the earliest CSS framework you can remember using in your life?
Foundation, probably. Before that, I was
Same
just
for
writing
me.
manual CSS Foundation.
Amazing. It goes way back. All right, and that is all the time we have. Thank you so much, Simon.
Thanks for having me and returning the favor.
Absolutely. And we will see you in season 2, right?
Season 2 is coming. It's going to be great.
It's equally stressful for the interviewer, which I was not expecting.
Yeah.
Trying to ask the question, you're trying to provide a little feedback, right? You're trying to keep an eye on the clock the whole time to make sure you get through it. I understand a little more, Simon. This is a little stressful.